Emma, my ex-wife, was a fellow student. She insulted me and threw beer at me when she saw me at the reunion wearing my work clothes. I left the event because I could no longer stand her awful attitude, and as I did, a sleek, black, luxury car appeared in front of me, representing my prosperous life without her. Tom Harris is my name after we got divorced. I am an ordinary guy who was raised in an ordinary environment and has an unremarkable personality that you could find anywhere. I was raised in a typical family and have led a typical life. I made a good number of friends during my time in school, and I didn't have any really exciting experiences. The maxim that I, a regular guy, constantly remember is from my high school teacher, Mr. Johnson. Live with perseverance, and you can overcome any difficulty. This saying has always been there for me, encouraging me no matter what. Fortunately, I haven't yet been in a circumstance when I had to frantically rely on these words, but I always remember them. I was a boring student, but I had a secret admiration for my classmate Emma. I found her ever-changing expressions, her careful listening style, and her occasionally feminine side profile to be really alluring. I naively believed that our accidental meeting at the same university was fate. Even though I was such a quiet student, I've always secretly admired Emma. On the other hand, I was so unremarkable in the crowd that several of my peers didn't even recognize me. However, Emma would occasionally talk to me about our high school years, and those little exchanges brought me much joy. I was happy about such little things, and it was enough to keep me happy. I was a really humble man. Still, when I had my college degree, I was curious about my position. It was best to give up and move on since it had been a long-standing, unfulfilled love since high school. This was the opportunity. So, determined not to be rejected, I told Emma the truth. Her startling response, yes, made me question whether I was dreaming. I had genuinely enjoyed my days with Emma, whom I had always admired. I've always made an effort to give Emma anything she wants. I put a lot of effort into my job since I loved seeing her delighted grin after receiving my gifts. As our relationship developed amicably, I made Emma's dream of becoming a housewife come true by popping the question in my third year as a working professional. I worked harder than ever, but taking care of two people's expenses was difficult. I worked so hard in my third year because I wanted Emma to be happy. Fortunately, my hard work paid off, and I was able to advance in my career in a way that surprised both myself and my elders. I worked for a big company, so my pay was already above average, but after I got promoted, I began making an unbelievable amount of money. But while my salary rose, Emma's extravagant spending, all in the name of bettering herself, also increased. Even while it wasn't yet endangering our means of subsistence, buy new outfits and seasonal brand bags for each supper with friends added up. Whenever I felt like talking, I would hesitate to say anything because I knew she would be happy and would only have to put in more effort. I regret that my approach could have led her to become irresponsible in retrospect. I was talking to my coworker Susan while enjoying a coffee one day during our lunch break. Suddenly, on each employee's PC, there appeared an internal email. Susan was the first to view the email and mumbled, "No way," in shock. I saw some startling news on her screen. An enormous downsizing was announced as a result of subpar company performance. The names of individuals who will be let go were coldly published in the email. My name and Susan's came on the list of people being laid off, and I glanced through it nervously. I felt as though everything had darkened around me, and I almost dropped my coffee. All of the staff members on the list, including Susan and me, were independent contributors to the business in their early 30s. A few of us went up to President Smith to voice our objections. "We targeted you because you're young and have ample opportunity for re-employment," President Smith countered. "I apologize, but I ask that you respect our circumstances." He apologized profusely and in a kind manner, but his remarks were emotionless. He appeared to be merely apologizing to get out of the sticky position. To me, it felt like that only. We came to the conclusion that there was no point in disputing with President Smith and had to accept the layoff. What will you do now? Silently, Susan inquired. I haven't made a decision yet. I should discuss it with my spouse. Susan, how about you? What plans do you have? Well, packing up my personal items around my desk, I replied. She said, I think I might go back to my parents' place. I take it that your dad owns his own business. Thus, you'll have a backup plan for the time being. Using her best happy voice, she exclaimed, Yay, that's right. I had no idea at the moment that Susan was about to cry in her voice. I wondered what I should do next as I drove home. I first considered how to tell Emma the news. I knew she would understand if I couldn't immediately find another job because I had worked so hard. Emma would undoubtedly encourage me. I could use my severance income to help with my job search. Feeling a little more positive, I accelerated my speed home, reassured by these thoughts. Emma exclaimed, What? As soon as I muttered about getting laid off when I arrived home. Not at all. I recognized her reaction as she turned pale. It's difficult, so feeling nervous was only normal. But let's work through this together, I said. But before I could say anything further, Emma gave me a direct look and suggested that we get divorced. What? I was taken aback. We ought to file for divorce if you are unable to get employment. A jobless man who is unable of spending money on me is useless. I don't require you, spit out Emma. Everything in front of my eyes turned dark. Emma barraged me with insults, and I was at a loss for words to respond. When I got married, I thought that because of your big company employment, we would be financially independent. My computations were incorrect. I could hear these words. Ultimately, Emma had never loved me at first. She knew I'd looked up to her since high school and figured that since I worked for a big firm, things will get stable financially someday. She believed that one day she would be able to achieve everything she wanted. I began to wonder if this was the intended meaning of left cooling. Even after a century, it seemed strange at the time, almost as if it were occurring to someone else. As I watched her lose her temper in front of me, I started to wonder if this was really the woman I had married. Feeling a mounting disgust as Emma went on to enumerate her complaints, I answered, All right, let's get divorced. I was unable to move past my feelings or begin looking for a job until the divorce was finalized. After getting divorced, I started looking for a job seriously. Considering my smooth career up to that point, I knew it was a challenging employment market, but I hadn't anticipated it would be this difficult to get work. I'd initially searched for positions where I could apply the abilities I had acquired in my prior position, but nothing was available. Even with considerable savings, the need to find a new career quickly became pressing. I started looking for jobs in industries where I had no experience after realizing I couldn't be picky after my applications were turned down time and time again. Despite my belief that my physical strength was ordinary, I still avoided occupations requiring heavy labor because I didn't belong to an athletic club. I did, however, wind up doing some labor-intensive role interviews. Mr. Williams, the head of one company, was incredibly courteous. He paid close attention to my account of being let go. Although it will be difficult at first, we will be there for you. He said, Why don't you collaborate with us? I was prepared to accept any job offer at that point. Since it was a construction company, there was some physical labor involved in the job, but mostly office work. No one made fun of me for being weaker or slower than others, and I appreciated everyone's encouragement. Although I wasn't returning the favor, I improved the company by making the most of my skills. That's how I earned Mr. Williams and my coworkers' trust. I feel quite lucky to have been hired by this organization. I was starting to feel at ease in my work when I got a notice about a high school reunion. An unpleasant memory came back. My former teacher, Mr. Johnson, was someone I wanted to see again, even though I didn't want to see Emma's face. I gave it some thinking and went to the reunion. As I was about to leave, I received an unforeseen call from work. I threw on my work clothes without thinking and made my way to the working site. It took longer than anticipated, and the reunion was well underway when I got there. I chose to wear my work clothes even though I had prepared a change of clothes. I recognized several people and went to hunt for Mr. Johnson, only to find out he was in the hospital. There's no reason to stay here if Mr. Johnson isn't here. Perhaps I should head out early, I considered. I heard a voice I didn't want to hear just then. Sing. Tom, is that right? It was Emma, who had turned into an even more flamboyant, or vulgar, person than she had been before. Standing next to her was Ethan, who was supposedly a fast-tracked elite. I could tell Emma was eyeing Ethan flirtatiously, and I knew he was her next target. It didn't appear to bother Ethan. Emma was decked out in designer labels, and Ethan, in his dapper suit, looked down at me, laughing heartily as he made fun of my outfit and work clothes. What is the issue? Is that all you have to wear to a reunion this grand? As one might anticipate from a man who was fired due to his incompetence, laughed Emma crudely. Have some pride, Tom, please. Walking around like this, even if you're laid off, is just embarrassing to think we went to school with someone at rock bottom. Smirking, Ethan continued. Ethan and Emma were nodding along just like I had imagined. Emma spilled the beer she was carrying over my head all of a sudden. You loser, that outfit fits you perfectly, she yelled. Why don't you simply walk away? As the two of them cast me in a demeaning light, Ethan exclaimed, You're ruining the vibe here. They didn't even appear to be aware of how their actions surprised everyone in the vicinity. I think they thought my work clothes were too casual for me. I made the decision to go since I felt bad for them and didn't want to ruin the mood for anyone else. I understand. I said, I'll go, and made my way out the door. My surrounding students interrupted, saying, You're not required to go. Considering how far you've come, you ought to remain longer. And put those two out of your mind. Standing in the middle of the arena, their arms crossed and smug smiles directed at me, I didn't want to spend any more time with those two. I'll catch up with you guys later, I said to my companions as I opened the door to go. At that moment, a sophisticated black automobile arrived. There was a lot of commotion inside the restaurant as a fancy automobile pulled up outside. Naturally, eager to acquire the greatest angle of the car, Emma and Ethan navigated their way through the crowd. Emma was still calculating and wanted to know who owned the car. The driver then exited the vehicle and stated, President Harris, your car is ready, in a kind manner. I could feel the air behind me getting cold. President Harris, Emma's speech was hardly audible. I gave them both a quick glance before getting into the car, where Susan was already waiting. Making sure no one else could hear, I murmured, Looks like Ethan's company is in trouble, into Emma's ear. You should probably start looking for your new partner right away. Then I snuck past Emma, who was standing still, and entered the vehicle. Hello. How was your day? As I got into the car, Susan smiled to meet me. I said, sighing and letting my shoulders drop. It was okay, I said. By pure happenstance, my new work ended up being at Susan's family's business, meaning that the thoughtful Mr. Williams who had been so encouraging was, in fact, Susan's father. I was promoted to vice president because he recognized my sincerity and hard work. I had told Susan that I was in love with her. Our shared background gave us ease and comfort, and before I knew it, we were a couple. More than anyone else, Mr. Williams was pleased for us. I was even making plans for Susan's wedding. Before long, I had come across Ethan's business through my professional interactions. Despite being a large corporation, there were ongoing suspicions of financial problems, and it appeared that an investigation would soon be launched. A company with that kind of reputation wasn't a good business partner, factual or not. It was evident that Ethan was entering uncharted territory. I walked into the room and saw Miss Smith sitting there, appearing a little anxious. Please take a seat. As I took a seat across from her, I noticed that she didn't appear eager to talk. She probably finds it difficult to say no because she is too kind to let someone go easy. I apologize for hiding my past from you. If anyone found out about my mafia past, I knew I would have to step down. Oh, I see. Yes, I wanted to stick by your side and support someone who has such a great heart for other people. I am very grateful for what you have done. Hold on for a moment. I take it you called me in to fire me. No. No. You should also remain with me, I hope. But not both a driver and a CEO. Would you be interested in dating me with a view to marriage? Miss Smith asked me, her voice quivering a little. Her face flushed red. I would be honored if that were okay with you. I smiled in response, surprised by this unanticipated turn of events.